You're listening to a Galactic Network podcast.
The Podcast of Terror is a show with adult themes, run by adults, for adults. Please do not have your children listen to this show. It might be beneficial to them in the long run, but please wait until they are older. This is one of those things. It's like when you laugh when you're playing bingo and 069 comes up and you have a chuckle and your kitty says, Mommy, why are you laughing at 069? And the mommy says, when you're older. It's one of those kinds of things. Mommy, can I listen to Podcast of Terror? Sure. When you're older. This is a show with adult themes and some childish behavior. A lot of dick jokes. So please. If you want to avoid the swearing, if you want to avoid spoilers for your favorite horror movies, and if you want to avoid really, really lame, petty dick jokes, do not listen to this show. It is not for you.
Corey, how often do you wear a shirt?
Not as often as you would think.
Yeah, it's always nice to cover up your nipples, and maybe your neighbors are complaining because they're hairy. I know you wear shirts when we do these shows. That's about it, from what I understand.
It's more that I just give off a glare that blinds drivers by.
It is hot in California, so I assume that you sweat. There's a slight sheen to you, and the California sun just...
I don't even sheen. I Estevez.
That is... If you do not want to Estevez in public... We have two places in which you can go. We got 2 coupon codes to make your life a little cheaper. You can go visit frequent guest and friend of the show, Matt Vincent, his website, thehate.com. That's the HVIII.com. Use the coupon code HBG15 for 50% off your order. Maybe you hate him. I don't know. He's kind of a likable guy. But if you hate him and you want to go spend your money somewhere else, we got this other place. Go to statusfearmerch.com. Another sponsor of the show, friend of the show. He does all our artwork. He's a really nice guy. He does all the art for my band, except for the stuff that Corey's wife draws. Head over to statusfearmerch.com. Use the coupon code TERROR. Get you a little nice discount there. Episode 107 of the podcast of the Galactic Network. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey Mocha Crappuccino Scott.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get it? Because it makes you poop?
No surprise. Corey's a pooper. I want to apologize up front because I seem to have the sniffles coming on. So you hear a lot of snot sucking. That's probably going to be me.
Do you know who else has the sniffles?
No.
Ice JJ Fish. He's the rawest of them all. Our guest this week, returning guest. He's got a really nice beard still. I'm like staring at his little thumbnail. It's a nice beard. He's creator of the upcoming film The Sky Inside, and he's part owner of the Austin-based brewery, Oddwood Ales. Brett Ziebarth. Brett, how are you?
Yes, hello. I'm good.
Good to have you back. I'm pretty sure we scheduled you for this date like 4 months ago.
Yes, you did.
Because it was during our break when I started finding guests, and this is the date that worked for you. And at one point, I thought it was in October, and it was on like a Tuesday. It was a whole mess. It has nothing to do with my drinking.
I'm sure.
Let's talk about your movie and your brewery.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
What do you want to say?
What do you want to know?
Well,
what are they?
The
brewery is the place where we make beer and a movie. Okay. The Sky Inside is a short film that. Okay, it's actually got a little bit more of a story to it. Started off as a feature film. I wrote a feature, and I was going to try and, when I was living up in New York, I was going to try and do the kind of. I'm trying to think of another director who's done this Christopher Nolan thing where you shoot it on the weekends and. You just kind of find crew and put it together. And I wrote the film in such a way that I thought I could do that. And so we started doing that, and we shot, over the course of really a couple of years. And I ran out of money, and I was moving back to Austin, and I kind of ran up against this deadline where it's like, well, I've got 30 plus minutes of, edited footage for a rough cut. And I don't really have an end. So I kind of went through and I pulled the script apart and I said, okay, how can I make this a complete story? So I shot a few more scenes and got my rough cut together and then just started hacking away at it. And I was able to get it down to a 15-minute short film. And and now it's kind of in the final phases. I've got the final sound mix should be coming my way any day now, and I've got my festival without a box set up, which is without a box is basically a portal that you use to submit to film festivals. So it's like as soon as I get this thing up there online, I'll start shooting it out to film festivals. It's kind of a little bit of a psychological thriller, surrealist psychological thriller with like some horror elements to it. And so I feel like it's got potential in some of the smaller niche festivals where I can put it in. I think I can weasel it into some smaller festivals, but hopefully, I can also get it out there and get it into at least one, festival that people have heard of, not like the Delaware Horror Film Festival or whatever, but something that's like, Seattle Film Festival, or something that's got some clout. So that's the goal. It's always a crapshoot, and it's a ton of fucking work. But yeah, that's where I'm at with it. And
is it something that, since it started out as a feature and became a shorter film, is your eventual hope is to get it back to being made into a feature again, or are you just excited to have a project that is completed, and instead, if it gets picked up, would you rather use that to fund for another project instead of trying to do this over?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm a little burned out on it. So that's the latter sounds like the better situation. If somebody was like, "Oh, I like this. What else do you have?" I'm working on another feature that's more like straightforward, kind of like comedy horror that I would like to do. I think it'd be a more fun project. But if somebody was like, I really like this, I'd like to see the feature version. I've got a pretty decent script that I could work with, and I mean, I would want to reshoot everything that I've already got. And just get a consistent crew and do it. But if somebody was like, "Hey, let's do this," and I didn't have to do every single thing, that's the hardest part about being an indie filmmaker is the fatigue. Like by the end of it, it's like, oh, I've got to sit down and write credits for this thing. And by the end of the film, you're just like, I'm so done with this thing. And then, there's a level of an excitement there, but at the same time, it's just, you get this fatigue. And if you have a team that's like, oh, I'll handle some of the color correction, I'll handle the After Effects, I'll handle this and this and this, and you have some money behind it. Like I said, I ran out of money, and you can pay people to do those things, but I don't have that money right now, so I'm doing everything. So either way, I would love to just kind of keep making movies. So whatever, somebody's willing to give me money to do it.
So you're not obsessed with the idea and want to chase it down? Because one thing I hear from writers a lot is perfect is the enemy of done. And a lot of people want to take something and make it and then remake it and then remake it and remake it and remake it to get that one perfect piece of art out there. You don't want to go Axl Rose, November Rain on it. You want to actually get the fucking thing done and then move on to the next thing, because you're a person who makes stories and tells stories and has way many more ideas. And if you spend too much time on one thing, I mean, that's, and either one is valid. It's just, I wondered how you felt about it, since I've taken stories that I thought were going to be a lot longer and made them short stories. And I've taken stories that I thought were going to be a lot shorter and just never finished them. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think there are filmmakers that are like that. I am the type, I like to get a project out there, finish it, put it, and I'm also an illustrator. I draw, so I'm very much the same way with that too. I like to finish my drawing, get for whatever it's for, kind of be done with it and move on to the next thing. And that's how I feel like I grow as an artist. I don't, if I keep rehashing the same territory, I do feel like I stagnate. And I'm working on the beer labels for Oddwood Ales, and I've done like, we're not even open yet, but I've done like 15 to 20 of them, and I kind of start getting stagnant. I'm like, well, I'm kind of working the same style over and over, so I have to just kind of take a break, step back, and then come back at it fresh. But what's that German director, Austrian director that remade his Funny Games? He made it exactly the same way in Austria and in America, and shot for shot made the same thing. And I can't understand how the hell he would do that, but he had this vision that it had to be made in America, and when he had the money to do it, he did it. And so
Michael Hanke or
Michael Haneke, that's right.
Yeah.
Do you have like
Yeah.
a
Good movie.
a release time for your movie, or is it just kind of when it's done?
Yeah,
it's
I
done?
mean, when it's done, I upload it to Vimeo, and that's how you submit to film festivals these days. Used to be you would have to make a copy of the DVD, put like a code on it, and send it out. It's actually pretty convenient. You just upload it to Vimeo. You have your password. It's all all the information's on your without a box page. So you got a little press kit on there, a little EPK, and you just find festivals, and you're like, boom, that one, and that's expensive too, though. So the official release day, I suppose, is if you get into a festival and it's the first festival that you're premiering it at, that's kind of like the premiere. Short films are kind of bullshit though, because nobody watches them outside of the festival circuit.
Yeah.
In other countries, I think they do a little bit, but in America, they happen. So there's not really a, premiere, I suppose.
Yeah, but like
Or
Corey
release.
may kind of mentioned, if someone really likes it in the film festival, they may pick it up and turn it into a full length.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
or
it would be great.
Someone likes your style and asks you to write something else similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, a lot of days you see what happens is someone who's a filmmaker and they have their first thing come out and it starts to get some notice. It's not we want to hire you to make your movie or to make something that you have as your next project. It's, hey, we have this property that we own and we think that your style would work well for this property. Here's this, potential script or the idea, and you write the script and make the movie and give us our next Child's Play, or give us our next Friday the 13th or whatever that they've got in their stable of stuff. So if someone came over to you and said, hey, we really like the way that this film looks, do you have a dream of, well, if I was going to sell out, what would be the perfect situation where I get to sell out to? Or is it strictly your own stuff right now?
I'm sorry. I think I missed a section. I think it cut out for a second. What was the question?
If Hollywood came to you with
if they had like a Child's Play or some existing property, and they were, hey, would you like to take a stab at this script? Well, I think I would do it if it was. I like, even if it was schlock. I like schlock. I like that stuff, and I'm not looking to be like some great American artist of some. I just like working, and if somebody's like, here, take a stab at this script, I think there can be, and I think you can put your own style and all of that in those stories, and if it gets butchered in the end, which it might, you might write something and then they get somebody else in there to do this, like, oh, we don't like these scenes, and they get somebody to rewrite them. And I think that's just kind of a part of the game, and getting your name out there is important. I have a buddy that had a similar situation to that. Is like a famous actor liked his short film and said, hey, can you write a script for me? That's kind of I'm going to give you the freedom to do it. Or, the freedom for the subject matter. But he also had 5 other people writing scripts for him, and I don't know if my buddy's script's ever going to get made, but it was a cool opportunity, and it really gave him some leverage, to do the next thing. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. But do you have a dream, like someone comes at you and they say, hey, we're going to relaunch Candyman or whatever? Do you have some property that you think, wow, it's not something that's popular right now, but if someone came to me and said, oh, we're relaunching Critters, do you have a property that is like, and it doesn't necessarily have to be horror related, but we are obviously a horror show.
I'll keep it in the horror realm because I do like, I think the one that kind of always upset me was like, they made this Tremors movie. Do you remember Tremors?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was kind of a comedy horror, which is a genre that I think there's just not enough of them out there. And I think the sequels to that were all like straight to DVD, straight to video. And I think that one could be one that would be just super fun to do. It's a ridiculous thing, but there's a lot of territory there to wrap some comedy and get some good. And I think it should be rated R too, not PG-13, but get some good blood and gore out of it. And that would be one that I would jump all over.
Well, the opportunity is there because Kevin Bacon is apparently going to be in a Tremors TV series that's coming up. They've been talking about it, and he's pretty
really?
serious on it. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I don't know how much it flies in the face of like the last 4 Tremors sequels that have happened or not, but that is certainly something that's out there. And like if you look at James Gunn before he got really popular from the Marvel stuff, did Slither. That seems like it's right in that kind of vein of weirdness. I'm with you. Those are the kinds of movies that I really enjoy a lot too. And yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And it seems like with what I know of your background, that would be a good fit for you.
Yeah. Be badass.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'll talk to Kevin's agent today. Give him a ring.
Yeah, just wake up.
I hear that everybody is connected to him by a minimum of 6 people or something. So yeah, just fucking go with it. Shouldn't be hard to find him.
I mean, it's pretty easy. So because we did this once. Corey, our past guest and friend Matt Vincent, is like 2 degrees away from Kevin Bacon, which makes Brett 3.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah. I don't know my degrees to Kevin Bacon. I'm sure if I sat down, I know a few people out in LA that have probably run into him, and then I could tie it there. And he hasn't sexually assaulted anybody I know yet. Yet.
I mean, I hope he hasn't. I'm not saying that I wish that he comes out as some skeevy perv with a rapey basement. You find out that Kevin Bacon has a sign in his basement that just says Uncle Touchy's basement.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Wouldn't be good.
It'd be a terrible sign too.
Yeah. It sounds like everyone and their mother's touching people these days.
Yeah.
Corey, if you come visit me in my basement, I'll get you the next hot roll.
Yeah. By the way, Brett, according to the Oracle of Bacon, your bacon number is 3.
What?
Yeah, the Oracle of Bacon. This goes back to even before IMDb for me. You have to tell it to look under producers and directors, not just people who act. Oh. But Brett Ziebarth was in Defending Madeline, 2008. Is that right?
I directed a short film. Yeah,
with John Connor Brooke. John Connor Brooke was in Tribute in 2014 with Lisa Wheel, and she was in Stir of Echoes in 1999 with Kevin Bacon.
There you go. All right, cool. I wonder if I'll have to tell my buddy Connor. He's 2 away. Nice. The Oracle of Bacon. I'm writing that down. It's just a website you go to?
Yep. I was surprised that it was still up. I haven't checked it in years, but it's one of those things that I think my friends came back in the dial-up days, came back from seeing Lost in Space in the theater, and they were trying to figure out who the cute girl was in it. It was Heather Graham. And they were like, oh, shit, she played Mercedes. They were looking up on IMDb, and they said that they had found IMDb from the Oracle of Bacon. So that was, at that point in time, that was like the big deal of like, this is what the internet is bringing us, is we can find someone's bacon number.
IMDb was one of the early websites, wasn't it? And I've heard that, and I never fact-checked it, but I've heard that it was it's still to this day, it's kind of built like something that was on GeoCities or something, but I've heard that it's one of the early websites, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I wish they had the forums still.
It might not be a fact though. People need to fact check me. I could be.
Yeah, if it was on the internet, it's true.
I believe most things that I see and read on the internet. So
you should. You really should. What else do we do here, Corey?
Matt, what are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking bourbon again because I'm really hungover.
You just want to keep that going for as long as you can?
I want it to stop.
Oh, okay.
I need it to stop.
Is it working?
No, not at all. I think I slept weird. My neck's all fucking sore and weird and hurty, and that's currently the problem. So it's making my head hurt. And
that always happens. If I drink too much and fall asleep, for some reason I work my neck in the wrong position. I sleep on it too long. And the whole next day, on top of being hungover, my neck hurts, which is, it's just a double whammy there.
Yeah. And as far as I know, I'm the only one drinking anything because Brett's apparently taking the week off.
Until Thanksgiving, yeah. I drank
a little less than a week.
Thursday night, Friday night, and last night. So I'm good. I'm
I
getting
have
older.
zero...
I've got my blood pressure's run a little high these days. I gotta, adult shit that is like, oh.
Yeah, I don't plan
gotta
on after today. I don't think I'm going to drink until next weekend. So
Really, you're not going to celebrate the give thanks for being really ripped up drunk while you're dealing with family and way too much food.
We're going down to my parents, which means we have to drive back. So
yeah.
And I don't really want to stay there. So I'll just go there and I'll eat a bunch, and then I'll drive home and then take a big poop and go to sleep.
There you go.
Hopefully in that order.
Yeah. I was like, what order did I say them in? Am I shitting in my bed in this story? Could always be worse.
You will be in the way I'm going to tell it.
Oh, boy. I can say with all honesty, I've never gotten so drunk that I've like pissed in my shoe or pissed on the floor, which I know people who have, and I don't know.
That's really good.
Pissed in other people's shoes.
Well, there was a guy I used to hang out with who would get really drunk and like piss on the shoe tray, like by their back door all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, like maybe you should reevaluate your drinking, sir.
Or where you keep your shoes.
Maybe you just put a toilet there instead. Yeah. Fix things for you. Corey, Lipton iced tea, I assume.
No, I'm drinking a Mountain Dew. I promised last week that I would try to bang one of these things out. I'm wondering if it's past its. A few years ago, they started putting expiration dates on soda. I don't know if Mountain Dew actually qualifies because it's gonna make you feel fucked up anyways. I don't see one, but it's been in my fridge for almost a year probably.
Oh,
Is it in a glass bottle?
It is in a glass bottle. That is the joy.
That's fancy.
It reminds me of my youth
Mountain Dew.
and my sterility.
you can. We live close. I don't know miles wise, but close to the Sundrop soda facility, so you can find like glass bottle cases of Sundrop in the grocery stores around. Which I think.
What is Sundrop?
That is a good
It's like
question.
a Sprite. It's a lemon lime soda, right?
Is it? I'm looking it up real quick. It's a citrus flavored soda, yellowish green color. Related
I don't know if it
products,
ever
Surge, Mellow Yellow, and Mountain Dew. Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's anything like Mountain Dew, but it's one of those things. It's an off-brand. It's like an RC Cola version or a Fago version. It's
Fago.
territorial.
I've never had Fago, but
it's actually.
I know everybody
It's
knows.
pretty good in my opinion.
Fago Red Pop is a way of life. So is Rock and Rye.
I never liked Red Pop. I did like Rock and Rye. The Diet Root Beer is very good. The Diet Cream Soda, Diet Orange, pretty good. I saw someone with blue cotton candy flavored Fago.
Oh yeah,
All right. I know they have like a plethora of flavors. Let's get into this.
They do. Fago is kind of like the more commercial local soda from Michigan. Like it's big because
popularized by the Insane Clown Posse.
the Insane Clown Posse. Like we didn't drink Fago in the 80s before ICP was even anything.
Wow.
But the lesser known in Michigan is a soda called Town Club, which I'm not even sure still exists. But the local weatherman, Sonny Elliott, used to advertise Town Club. So I always look for that when I go back because Fago I can find in some places out here, usually in beverages and more.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I think I'd have to Amazon. I maybe I'll order some off of Amazon and give it out for Christmas.
You might be able to buy it just off of their website. Let me look. I believe so.
If you have a Bevmo near you, you might check there first. But yeah, it shouldn't be hard to get. It's still very territorial.
I forgot they have 60/40, which is like 50/50, which is like Sundrop. There's a lemon lime soda. Very good. Yeah, I remember spending the summer before my 8th grade year trying to find Fago because I was really into ICP at that time in my life. And the dollar stores had it. And now it's in the majority of the Quick Trip gas stations, which up here it's KWIK, not QUIK, down by you, Brett. And
what is it?
Quick, like a Quick Trip? Yeah. Ours are KWIK, and it's Quick Star if you're in Iowa, but it's a different.
Yeah.
You can buy Fago off of their website.
Did you go to Juggalo festivals and stuff when you were into ICP?
Did not. I still to this
I'm
day.
curious. I mean, I am a little bit curious. I would say.
I saw them not that long ago. Like they were in Green Bay, which is pretty close for like the 20th anniversary of one of their first records. So I'm like, I'm gonna go, and I had a fucking ton of fun. And they just did another one for the Great Milenko, but I was in Kansas for a wedding, so I couldn't go. I never got to go to the Gathering of Juggalos. Matt Vincent, our friend of the show, him and I talked about going because we thought that people watching would just be so fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like if you have 20 minutes to kill, look up American Juggalo on YouTube. And it's like a documentary. Like how you're taking a note. It's a documentary about like the people there, and like
I may have seen a little bit of that.
it's fucked up.
Pretty crazy. Isn't it all like a big dirt field too? With like
it's in a
it looked
field
pretty.
like
It looked really gross actually. It looked like kind of unsanitary and.
It looks like a place where all the toilet people would go.
Yeah, but look at your average Lollapalooza or the rehash of Woodstock that they did, and people getting raped in the mud. It's
not sanitary. Rape in the mud is definitely not sanitary.
What the fuck was I gonna... Oh, so there was a news story here. I think it was probably about a year ago, but there was a bunch of juggalos who, to honor their fallen friend, cut a girl's finger off. And she like agreed to it. She's like, yeah, let's go ahead and cut my finger off. And then the main guy involved was a local rapper who goes by the name Bloody Ruckus. He put it in a freezer because he was going to eat it later.
Oh man.
Yeah, and they only ended up calling the police because they couldn't cauterize the wound. It just kept
that's what
bleeding.
an iron is for.
I can't remember what they were. He was talking about like using gunpowder or something at one point, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Well, which would totally work, but you might like blow something. You might blow the rest of your hand off.
We've all seen terrible, terrible movies and assume that stuff would work in real life because we're educated by stupid ass films.
Yeah. Yeah. So...
But I will say I respect the ICP fans. I respect the Juggalos in the degree that they love what they love and they're very supportive. And I have at least a middling, from far away respect for ICP in general, especially with their free speech thing and the fact that they're trying to protect their fans from being called gangs and labeled as such. I have nothing against them other than the fact that they've been portrayed as sort of ridiculous, but they enjoy that portrayal. That's kind of what they put out there. But it's always funny to me when I see people like you or Glenn, who was on last week, that are all like, you guys dig ICP, and I've never once listened to their stuff, so I can't say whether I like them or not.
It's more of like a nostalgia thing at this point. Like, because I think I was in like high school at the time. I got my first underage drinking wearing a ICP hockey jersey, which I'm sure made me look really cool to the police officers. But it's like it's more of a nostalgia thing at this point. Like, I cannot listen to their new music and be like, "Ooh, this really speaks to me in my 30s." But they made a shtick. They made a fucking dump truck full of money. Off of that shtick, and they continued to do quite well. And I'll tell you what, to this day, they are one of the best concerts I've ever seen. Because there's always something happening on stage, and like throwing the sodas. After a while, it's kind of like, cool, can we stop that? Because I'm sick of watching for like propelling soda bottles coming towards my face. But
Stryper did it first with Bibles.
Wait, Stryper shook up bottles and shot them around the stage?
Well, they throw Bibles out of off the stage at the audience, yeah.
Which doesn't that seem sacrilegious?
I guess it doesn't matter.
But do you know what I
like? Big, thick, heavy Bibles, or just like those little
the King James Bible?
I never managed to catch one. I've only been to a couple of shows, either of Stryper or of Michael Sweet solo, but yeah, it doesn't matter. What do they have to do? They go and they confess the next Sunday, and they're off the hook.
Yeah,
I'm Googling what kind of Bibles.
I guess that's how that stuff works.
Or who's gonna go to the police and say, "Yeah, I got hit in the face with a Bible." Well, where were you? I was at a Stryper. Oh no, I wasn't. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out what kind of Bibles they're throwing out. So apparently, Michael Sweet is very open about throwing Bibles. They always will.
Yeah.
Why can't you just tell me what version of the Bible you're reading or you're throwing out?
That's just the Old Testament, probably.
Oh, here we go. Do you still throw Bibles to the crowd? We always have. We always will. We consider it to be a very important part of what we do. Have you ever nailed anyone in the head? We have. We have to be real careful. Back in the day, we used to take them up so they would fly further. We hurt a few people. I know recently we were doing a gig in Massachusetts, and there was a guy who was carrying 4 beers. We threw a Bible and knocked all the beers out of his hand. I thought that was pretty funny. That's a dick thing to say, because that man probably spent $40 to $50 on 4 beers and a ticket to see your band.
That's also a man getting drunk at a Striper concert. So
that's hey man, nothing wrong with that. I went to there's a Christian music festival that's like down not far from my house, and they always have like a couple of really good heavy bands, and they don't serve beer there, and I feel bad like wanting to go there and get a beer, but it's like man, I'm kind of like seeing a metal show. I kind of want to drink a couple beers, but I can't.
Yeah. You could smuggle it in. You could smuggle in some whiskey in a hip flask.
Or you can just wait and someone will bring you the blood of Christ, and that'll be just fine.
Well, the one year I actually went, no one stopped me for my ticket and no one made me pay for parking. So this year I'm like, I'll just waltz right in there, and it was like a dolphin's asshole. It was watertight, impossible to get into this place without tickets and parking. I was fucking pissed because it's like $40 for a date pass, and it's like I want to go see one band to play on a dirt pile for 45 minutes. I'm not paying that much.
First of all, whoever enters a dolphin through the asshole, you go for the blowhole. That's where the money is.
That's where you create a nice suction. It really pulls on the tip of your penis.
Seriously.
I think we actually made it a half an hour before the dick joke. Nope.
No.
29 minutes and 27 seconds.
Close.
Well,
Close.
no record set today.
No.
Hey, for more on this podcast, including show notes, contact info, and subscription, go to gncast.com/pot. And to chat with us during the show, you can go to gncast.com/sign up and join our Slack channel. And while you're there, you can also subscribe to the Galactic Network's newsletter.
Yep. This week we're going to talk about a movie based on a popular Billy Idol song, Eyes Without a Face. See what I did there? Thanks for the crickets, jackasses. Yeah.
I'm just glad that you had to do it because you didn't even know what I was referencing when I asked you.
I told Brad, I'm like, didn't know that Billy Idol wrote a song or had a song with the same name.
You had no idea that Billy Idol, the singer, wrote a song
called Eyes Without a Face.
Oh, okay.
Finish the fucking sentence.
It's one of his slow ones. I understand, if you haven't listened to it.
I'm not like a big Billy Idol fan.
It was his first major hit, and on top of that, he actually the chorus of the song has the title of this movie as it was in its original French. Les yeux sans visage is
don't try
the name of the song from the movie.
Don't try and
that makes sense.
This podcast up with speaking French.
I probably butchered that anyways.
Yeah, you probably.
Yeah, I'm just going to pronounce all of the actors' names in
their
American
English version.
English. Yeah, like the director is Georges Frange. I'm just going to call him George.
Yep.
George Franju.
I don't blame
How do you say Georges in French?
Georges.
Georges.
Just take a swatch of peanut butter and put it on the roof of your mouth and then say the name. Say the Americanized name. So say George with peanut butter in your mouth. And I think that's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
It is that creamy or crunchy?
Depends on the mood. I prefer creamy, crunchy. Then you get the nuts stuck in your teeth.
It probably depends on your diet. Yeah,
that too. And then if it depends on the jam or the jelly you're using. Sometimes you got seeds in there. When you got the crunchy nuts and the seeds combating each other, it's just
you got to go preserves.
You're having a civil war in your mouth over textures. It's just a lot of control. So I did point out to Brett when we started talking earlier today about how I did not know that this was a French movie with subtitles.
I forgot to ask if you could read.
There's comment.
I forgot to clarify.
My wife was reading them to me because I cannot read. I was trying to read lips, and she doesn't move her mouth a lot. It got real difficult. But the state of my head this morning made everything much worse. So
Well, you could have, and this is stuff that I realized after I was already watching it. You could have watched the American release of the movie.
Well, Brett
it was
told me that if I
released in
didn't,
1962.
Brett told me if I didn't watch the Criterion Collection version, he would come to my house and set my house on fire.
It's true.
Yeah, for people who don't know, this movie was released under the title "The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus," which I would have actually recognized that, although I hadn't seen it. But if you're wondering what we're talking about, this came out in 1960 in France and then was released in the States and released in, I think, Germany as well. And three of the things that it had to kind of tone down from the book that it was based on were all things that were individually decried in one of those places. So in France, they didn't want to have too much blood. Because they thought it wouldn't get past the censors there. In America, they didn't want to have too much violence against the animals because it wouldn't have gotten past the censors here. And then in Germany, they didn't want to have the mad scientist angle explored too much because Germans are fucking crazy. And so they had to tone each of those things down to make the movie what it was. And then it still got panned for a long time.
They cut it for the American release. They cut the main scene where he's performing the facial surgery. That was completely cut out. And they also cut out the scene where he was sitting with the little boy because they didn't want the bad guy or the villain to have a sympathetic side. So those were the two things they pulled out of it for the American release.
Which actually was one of the better parts of the movie because it made you feel that there was empathy in this person.
Yeah.
That it shows that he's not completely evil.
Yep.
And everything he's doing that is really evil is all for the purpose of trying to protect and take care of his daughter.
Yeah.
It the scene where they were cutting the chick's face off was like quite gruesome for the time.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised that, like, because I had read the tidbit about where they didn't want it to be that bloody because of the American censors. And they started cutting her face off like shortly thereafter, and I'm like, well, this isn't that bad. It's just like a little blood, and then it like cuts back, and they're like peeling her face off with multiple tongs.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. I mean, this is my second time to watch it, and the first time it struck me. I mean, it impacted me. I was like, wow, this is something that you would see, in a modern film, and the reason I said watch the Criterion version is a really nice restoration. They really did a good job, and so some of it does feel very modern. I felt like some of the camera movements and even some of the lighting, some of the dramatic lighting is really nicely done, and it felt like something that could have been put out more recently. It doesn't feel so dated. Anyway.
No, Brett, do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown of the plot of this before we go much further so that people who have not seen this yet and are deciding to, if give them an idea as to what we're talking about?
Oh, did you ask me to do that?
Yeah. If you want.
Okay. I can try. So the film basically centers around a kind of a renowned plastic surgeon, doctor, somewhere in France. I guess I don't know if it says exactly where.
They reference Paris a lot.
Okay, yeah, maybe a chateau outside of Paris. It looked like.
Yeah.
And he's trying to find a young woman who has an attractive young woman whose face he can remove to transplant onto his daughter's face, who has been, I guess, disfigured in a car wreck. And the daughter somewhat blames the doctor for that tragedy. And so, the plot sort of centers around trying to restore his daughter's identity, I guess I could say.
And he has performed this operation or a similar one before with his assistant, who is helping him dispose of the women that he's operated on. They get rid of the bodies, and she's completely loyal to him because he gave her a new face, and the only thing that she has that kind of makes it obvious is that she's got a scar on her neck, and that's why she wears these pearls like a choker around her neck, which is something that's used to identify her later on. But yeah, so they're doing these things. She's loyal to the doctor. The doctor is doing this for his daughter's sake because he blames himself for the car accident that disfigured her. His daughter is considered, when the police find the first body, he identifies it as his daughter, knowing full well that it's not. And all the women that they kidnap have some features similar to his daughter, and that's what leads the police to investigate him further as it goes along. Although the police never really get too far into this up until they involve. No, they're not.
They're actually kind of like, what are these guys thinking?
Yeah, and one of them's named Poirot, which I was thinking of Inspector Poirot, who have just been like getting into the mystery stuff lately again. But no, not good. They just sit around and smoke the whole time.
Yeah.
And then they get a random girl who's a shoplifter, and they say, "Hey, we're going to send you into the midst of a killer to get out of your shoplifting charges and stuff." It's like, oh, you sons of bitches! And then they completely lose track of her. They don't keep.
You think they'd be like following her, and then he's just sitting in his office smoking, and they get a call, and they're like, "Oh, she left the hospital," and it's like, wait a minute, I thought you would be tracking her to keep tabs, and yeah, all of a sudden she's about to get her face cut off as well. So yeah, big oops on the detective work there.
Yeah, but the imagery of the movie is the daughter going around wearing this featureless mask, which I read is part of the inspiration that John Carpenter used for Michael Myers in Halloween.
I can see that.
As I kept looking at her, I kept thinking she looked just like Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember like the movie poster was totally something I have seen time and time and time again, but I have never seen this movie until now. And, jury's out on how I feel about that, Brett. But
what, the movie? Because I didn't tell you it was in French.
I didn't think it was. I don't know if it was the fact that it was French, and I don't care about subtitles. Like, I do really enjoy Pan's Labyrinth, and that's all subtitled.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I like this movie.
Okay.
But it's also, I think part of it being kind of artsy is lost on me because the French are artsy as fuck, and I am just a dumb, stupid American.
Well, the director, who had only done documentaries before this, didn't really consider it a horror movie. He felt that the story wasn't leaning towards that. It was more about the critical nature of a doctor that's gone over the edge to protect his daughter. But it's not. What was the movie we did just a couple weeks ago? The Cure for Wellness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of similar to that, except the doctor isn't trying to have sex with his daughter. Or anything else, but it felt like there were a lot of similarities between those two as I was watching it. It's like the faraway kind of castle thing that he's in and in his big house and holding people against their will and using it to cure his child for whatever reasons.
Brett, have you seen A Cure for Wellness?
No, should I?
Don't ask me. I did not like that movie.
You didn't like it?
I know, but our guest loved it.
That's recent. I mean, that was out in the theaters like this year, right?
2 years ago? 2016?
That's last year.
I think so. Shut up, Corey.
How hungover are you?
It is almost 2018, so we'll give you some.
Well, I want to say it was early 2016. I'm looking right now. February 16th. Oh, no. Holy shit, it came out this year? February 16th, 2017?
I thought it was like just in the theaters. Yeah. And I remember seeing it. And
I thought it was a lot longer ago. Yeah, so it's less than a year old.
Time.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, it wasn't our cup of tea. We had a lot of critical things about it. It was beautiful. As a filmmaker, I could see watching it just to see the cinematography. But it was very weird.
But if you want to talk about the look of this movie, like, I thought it looked very good for being an older movie. Black and white doesn't bother me. Like, I don't need color to like enjoy something. So yeah, that didn't bother me. I'm sure I watched a very diligently restored version of it, but like Brett
in many ways,
said,
it looked more modern. We just did Young Frankenstein. It looked more modern than that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one thing that struck me about it the first time I saw it, and you compare it to, like, I mean, obviously when looking at a film from 1960, there's context that's important, and you start looking at some of the other films that came out around that time, even things that like Hitchcock was doing and things like that, which sometimes feel really stiff. And that's what I liked about this, is it doesn't feel so stiff and old. It feels like, and again, a lot of it has to do with, I think, the atmosphere and the tone. And the dialogue seeds are actually pretty peppy. They're kind of, they're not these long things. There's a little bit where they're just kind of explaining the plot, expository dialogue, but a lot of it moves along really nicely, and the camera work is a little, is on dollies, and follows the actors around, which I think lends to kind of a more modern feel. And I really enjoyed that part of this one.
Yeah, it never goes super crazy with the science fiction evil doctor. The mad scientist stuff doesn't come into place, so it doesn't look weird and dated for that. Of like those things are just electricity shooting up, sparking and stuff, and all the beakers and all that. Yeah, it looks
like a creepy basement where you would cut somebody's face off.
Yeah, it's like a mob doctor. Yeah, that's really it. The other weird thing is, and it's not weird in the context of what he's doing, but he's got a room that's full of dogs that are all in cages and doves. And the reason being is that he uses them to practice for his experiments, doing the skin grafting and stuff. So it makes sense, but it's just weird that you see this room just like all these dogs in these really barbaric looking cages. That the only one who goes to visit them and give them any comfort is the daughter, which makes sense because she's alone. She can't go outside of the house because the world has to think that she's dead, and her fiance thinks she's dead. She keeps trying to call him and can't speak to him. Yeah, she's cut off. So all she really has, besides her father and his assistant, is these animals.
Yeah, you're gonna like this movie by the end of this conversation, Matt.
And that's happened more than once where, Corey shuds, because I
you were too hungover to enjoy it.
But I very much I like things at face value. Like, I don't really look deep into things. I'm just a dumb, stupid idiot.
But this is without a face.
Oh, God, Corey.
You deserve that one. You absolutely deserve this one. I'm going to give you one more thing that I learned on Wikipedia from...
I hope it's a reach around.
It's better than that. It is our Nick Cage connection of the movie, which is...
Are they redoing it?
John Woo. John Woo pulled from this movie stuff from the ideas of this, went into the making of Face Off, including... There's the scene where the daughter is walking off into the woods at the end, and she's carrying a dove, and John Woo was like involving doves into Face Off and a bunch of his other stuff too.
He has doves in every slow motion sequence. There'll be a dove flying around,
and it is apparently in some respect, someone wrote down in Wikipedia that it has something to do with this movie of faces coming off and getting switched between people, and also doves were in it. So that is our Face Off owes to this film. I don't know if that's going to make you feel better or worse.
I think it's great. I mean, I love Face Off. I saw it in the theater. I mean, it's a terrible movie, but I do enjoy it when it's on. Yeah. It's a good bad movie. Yeah.
I always loved seeing John Travolta play a villain because he just goes batshit crazy in any role. And it's like,
it's fun to watch.
No subtlety at all.
Yeah. Very one note, but no, that's awesome. That's a nice little connection. I didn't make that one. It looks similar when they take their faces off in Face Off. It looks similar.
Yeah. It doesn't seem unlikely that this could have been part of the inspiration for it. It's just, like John Woo to 1960 French film, never would have guessed, but it makes sense.
Yep. That's awesome.
So it's got some good pedigree.
Hey guys, Jack and Dan here from We Studios. We're at WePodcast.com, WEEPodcast.com. We've got a bunch of shows. We've got a podcast about 90s. We've got a podcast about The Simpsons. What we don't have is a podcast of terror.
No,
That's
we do
why
not.
you're here listening to Podcast of Terror. But if you want the other things,
Go to wepodcast.com. You'll hear us. You like the sound of our voices? Well, come listen to our podcasts. Maybe you'll like the things we say when we're not on Podcast of Terror.
And we're very eloquent.
Yep.
Gordy, you have to drive this conversation.
I can drive a little bit.
Go for it. I have
nothing like mind blowing, but as far as just complimenting the film, something that I felt like they, in older movies before audiences were so impatient, I felt like they had a good 40 to 50 minutes of suspense, just kind of building up to the reveal of what her face looked like. And I just really, when you watch newer films, they just throw it all at you. And it's always just nice for me to go back and watch a film and just watch how they build the suspense. And they have that kind of creepy, it's almost like carnival music. And then that whole scene where she's talking to her daughter, and we still don't get to see her face. Her daughter's laying face down in bed, and we still don't get to see her face. And finally, the reveal I thought was really clever. The kidnapped girl is laying in the dungeon, and she's like slowly opening her eyes, and the reveal of let's just call her Christiane. That's right. The reveal of her distorted face is kind of blurry, and it's not right up in your face. And that reveal I thought was really clever. And I just appreciate when these old films do this. And I don't know, I feel like we can take a cue from that as in the modern world.
Yeah. It doesn't try to trick you. It doesn't try to dance around anything to do like a big scary reveal at the end of like, oh, and this is what it looks like when they take Jason's mask off for the first time. It's shot very tastefully for what it is. And yeah, they do leave you with some suspense of waiting, but it's not like this hyper buildup of like, and then you're going to see it and that's going to be when you scream, although it was for the person who first saw her face. And that was
passed out in the theater. People, I mean, back in, when they started cutting the face, people fainted in the movie theater.
Yeah, so. Which we know from Matt's conversation earlier was all done with strawberry preserves. It really is how it looked. I mean, it is. The effects in 1960 were, just to see anything like this on the screen was a big deal. The effects and stuff, we weren't quite there yet with, what's it going to look like when you cut off somebody's face? Oh, I've got a guy. That's all he does all day. The other thing you were saying about the music, the music for this was Maurice Jarre, Jarre. I was taken by the music that every time it's playing when the assistant is in the car, either getting rid of a body or picking up another woman to take back to be the next face donor, it's very jaunty, like a carnival kind of tune, which is strange in and of itself. And then it's a lot more morose the rest of the time. But the composer for it is a famed composer. He did the music for Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago and Gorillas in the Mist and a lot of other stuff. He's won several, I think, Academy Awards for his music. So it's so weird to see this is one of the places where he got his start. But the music did stand out. It seemed like it's such an odd choice for something that is like, here's someone who's dead and here's someone being led to their death. But I found this tune light and bouncy and easy to dance to. So I'll give it a 7, Dick. It was like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was creepy, and I thought it served that purpose well. There's no, I guess the thing is too, we know what a horror score sounds like now, but back in 1960, there was no precedent for a lot of these things. So a lot of it's trial and error, and let's see what works. Like, how does this affect the audience's mood? How does this work with this scene? And, now it's like, and I'm not just talking shit about modern film. I mean, but like, there are definite ways to get like a jump scare or how a horror film sort of builds that into it. And back then, it's all new territory. It's fresh.
Yeah. This movie came out the same year as Hitchcock's Psycho did. And Psycho, we reviewed it, I think almost 2 years ago now on here. And there's certainly an amount of lightness to a lot of it, and it takes a long time to get to the part where you start to realize what the movie's about if you didn't go in having a synopsis. And so there's a very different feeling to what is considered a horror film from that era to what we're used to now, where it's like you're immediately seeing someone. Often people get killed in modern horror movies before the credits start to roll at the beginning of the movie. So this is, we start out with this with a dead body, but we don't know the context of it until we go along. And it's not so, forgive me for this, in your face as you would expect from things now. And so that kind of, it makes a difference in the storytelling. Yep. I find it very interesting.
So Matt, you didn't like it? Are you liking it more now that we're talking about it, or are you no?
I just I'm trying to think like specifically why I didn't like it. It was kind of slow and clunky at times, in my opinion. So, but and that's the thing. Like, it's really hard to be like, well, this movie was really slow. It was in the '60s.
Yeah,
movies overall were different back then. It's so
we didn't have the ability to play with our phones.
There's that. There's that. It could have been partially my condition. There just like wasn't anything in the movie that made me like really want to go back and watch it again.
Well, it's also very cut and dry. It's not like it's leaving you with a lot of like, oh, I missed that part the first time. I need to go back and catch that. It's obvious in what it's doing. It's not hiding anything, and what you see is what you get. I think it's a good story, but again, we're 40, 50 years away from it now. Oh, geez, crap, we're 60 years away from it almost. That our perceptions of what we see in any film, let alone horror films, have been altered. It's not as quaint as going back to the silent movies, but it is still, compared to even stuff from the 70s when we started seeing the first things like The Town That Dreaded Sundown, the initial one, or the first Halloween. Like, those things changed, to me, a lot. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they changed the expectations of what a horror movie was. They brought a quaking, terrifying aspect to movies that I don't think existed before that. And while this is so rooted in reality that it doesn't try to overdo anything that it's trying to tell us in the story, that it almost feels like, oh, well, it's just fine. It's not scary in any way or shape or form, but I can feel empathy for the people who are scared in the movie.
Right. And one thing I can say that they did well was making it seem like this is something that could really happen. Like, there isn't really anything that's too over the top. There really could be a doctor who's trying to cut the face off of someone to put on his daughter because his daughter was in an accident. Especially the part where he puts the face on her and then it goes through like all the pictures where it's like, oh, this is day 2 or day 3 and the skin's starting to die and it's not really working, and then basically ends up back at square one.
I thought those effects looked pretty good actually in those stills. That where again, they don't have teams of people who are ready to make, what is it, necrotic? Is that the word?
Yeah.
Skin, and I thought that, again, it was just a still, but looked pretty good.
Still, they still had to make it.
Yeah.
To take the picture.
She was in makeup 3 hours every day for that mask. So that mask she wore that all day. She'd get in, and that was fixed to her face, and she had to drink her lunch through a straw. They gave her like smoothies and stuff. And so she was just walking around on set with that mask on all day. So there was, it might seem like, there was some makeup work obviously that was kind of advanced, because trying to get that, I guess, to stay on all day, and hot lights and things like that. Back then, movie lights are so hot. Now movie lights are getting better because there's LED and stuff, but you step on a set back then and you have these light. It took so much light to get an exposure on these old black and white film stocks. So, yeah. Anyway, kind of cool.
You're trying to make me feel bad. Like, I didn't like it, and she just was wearing like a big piece of bologna on her face all day.
Yeah.
Why do you think the dogs
That's
liked
my
her?
goal, to get on this job and make Matt feel.
Did either of you watch The Office like a lot?
Oh yes.
Do you remember
I
when?
watched it till about the time Michael left.
Okay. Do you remember when Dwight was making the Silence of the Lambs reference and had the piece of bologna on his face? Because this mask looked very similar to. Let's see if I can find a picture.
Wasn't that also in Dumb and Dumber? Or one of the Jim Carrey movies? I feel like he did the
Cable
Silence
Guy.
of the Lambs joke. Yeah.
Cable guy.
Yeah, he puts the chicken skin on his face at medieval times.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad that I got that wrong.
That was pretty easy to find. Let's see here. Let me minimize my pornography and I'll show you this. Share. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks way. That looks Texas Chainsaw more than.
It looks like a piece of bologna, all right?
Well, yeah, but that Texas Chainsaw Leatherface definitely it feels similar.
Yeah.
So the first skin graft was actually performed in 1917. So I guess it's by the time 1960 rolls around, it probably still wasn't a widely done thing, and certainly not replacing an entire face. But I was sort of surprised of is this considered science fiction at this point? Is this something that, at that time we didn't know this is something that we'd actually be doing medically or not? Because the way he's practicing it, it seems like he came up with it and he was the one who's trying to perfect it. But I guess it was more well known than that.
Well, he was trying to do a whole face. He was really getting in there with those when he was really lifting that thing off there. That was pretty nasty. He was really had those little tongs clipping on.
Yeah.
It's hard to remove a whole face in one go.
And just this week, there was stories going around about the first human head transplant. So
was it a success?
I don't know if it actually happened or if it was even real, but surgeon plans first human head transplant in 2017. Stories started coming out September 21st, and 2 days ago, Inspired by Frankenstein claims he has completed the first head transplant on a corpse. Well, that's great. I can attach tons of things to a corpse.
Yeah,
I think I've heard about that. He's like an Italian doctor, and he says he needs a team of 50 people on hand to move fast enough to do it. I think I read about that a while ago.
But if you're sewing a head onto a corpse,
well, he would sew a head onto a fresh cadaver, or I don't know. What would he sew a head onto?
Well, think about it though. You'd have to sew the throat. You'd have to fuse the spine.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to. Oh man, that'd be a lot of fucking work. What else runs through there?
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. What do you have to Do you have to glue blood vessels and shit together? I honestly don't think it's fucking possible.
Well, he says that the point is to do it on someone who's already paralyzed from the waist down. So how much are you losing at that point?
Yeah.
If your life is still, I don't know. I'd rather have. That would suck to be quadriplegic, but at the same time, I think I'd.
No, it's still a life, and it just depends on your outlook on it. But I could definitely see volunteers of this.
Yeah,
is
being this isn't the life I want. Yep, for sure. Sure.
We have any other points you guys want to make on the movie? Otherwise, we can rate it.
Just hey, maybe don't shoplift in France if it seems like then they're going to send you to get your face cut off by some weird doctor and them not give a shit about you. Oh, first dye your hair. It's well, we need to be blonde for this. Okay.
The real villains
exactly
in this movie were the police.
Yeah,
they're the true villains.
That's a very good point.
What is French for fuck the police?
Google Translator.
and is there God damn it, I can't even think of his name. Is there an iced tea in France?
Wine. It's just wine.
Just wine.
I don't know how to speak French. Baiser la police?
That sounds almost poetic.
Sounds really nice. Yeah.
Baise la police.
Where was she going with the
Baise
doves
la
at the
police.
end? That's my last question, I guess. The one answer that we don't have is where was she going with those doves at the end? Where was she going to take them? I mean,
She was going to take them to where doves cry.
I guess so.
By the way, I love how I amalgamated Ice-T and Ice Cube by talking about "Fuck the Police," which is NWA. But I was thinking of Ice-T's when he was in the whatever band he was. He did Cop Killers.
Body
that's
count.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Apparently, body count's good. I don't believe it, but I've heard.
And then he makes his career essentially by playing a cop on TV for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Sweet irony.
Yeah. I guess he was there's a bit of acting in his rap character a little bit too. I think that some of that was actually acting as well.
You're telling me that all of the
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hardcore rappers aren't actually truly gangsters? I don't know what to say to that.
There's a funny movie. I think it's funny. You guys may not. I haven't watched it in a really long time, so I gotta put this down right on a little list. Make sure I watch it.
If you tell me Malibu's Most Wanted, I'm gonna eject you.
I'm not. It's called Fear of a Black Hat. Yeah. So it was like CB4.
Been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, my brother brought it home from Family Video one time when I was a kid, and they finally released it on DVD not that long ago. But it's about NWH. They're N-words with hats, and there's a scene where they're at a grade school with their rival rap group, and they basically just go back and forth being like, "How is this guy a gangster?" Because he was like the editor of the yearbook. And this guy was on the tennis team, and they pull out a yearbook picture of him with a sweater tied around his neck. That was good. Made me think of that. Yeah,
It's basically like the rap version of This Is Spinal Tap.
I don't want to diminish some of the lives of some of these rappers had pretty rough parts of.
That's a very good
Compton.
point.
So I hear, unless Compton is, I've never been there, and that could all be fake news, and it could be the nicest part of town. I don't know. I've never been.
They put up shit pictures when the helicopters fly over during a shooting.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say that not every rapper is had their fair share of hardship. It's just I think to some extent some of the rappers it's kind of played up.
Oh, for sure.
To be that's are either of you familiar with the band Deicide?
No.
Okay, very very prominent death metal band. The singer has a upside down cross tattooed on his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Claims to be just a stark Satanist. Celebrates Christmas with his family.
Yeah.
So it's like all the people golfing with Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So I think to some extent you kind of have to create a character if you're going to be doing some of these extreme things. Glenn Benton, you can't be celebrating Christmas if you think you're a Satanist. Just throwing that out there. Do you guys want to rate this thing now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brett, as our guest, you have to go first. We go strictly to a 0 to 5 scale, and you can justify your number if you wish or not. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
And decimals are allowed.
Decimals are allowed. Do
Okay.
only 1 decimal point.
Not 2. Not a 4.
You could. If it's a quarter, you could go a 2.5 or a 7.5.
I got you.
But I don't want any, 3.666 repeating, of course.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, I'll keep it simple. I'm going to go 4 stars. The one weakness I do think is the detective side of the story. I think that could have been it's a little bit ridiculous, but I feel like it was kind of a missed opportunity there, and it would have been added to the suspense if the detectives were kind of hot on the trail, and it just feels like, I mean, this is going to sound mean, but it feels very French, like they're just sitting in their office smoking, and it's like, okay, well, there's the crime, people are disappearing, and so that's docking it a star for that. But I did really like the tone and the mood, and I thought for the time period, it's really solid film.
Yeah, the cops sitting there and so they call in 2 people to identify the first body when they find her. And then they call in the doctor, and they call in what is the actual victim's father. And once a doctor who gets there like 5 minutes ahead of him says, "Oh no, that is definitely my daughter," they don't to just try. They don't have the father go look at the body either.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, already been identified. You can go home. It's like, I drove all the way here to see if this is my dead child. You think maybe you can give me just a second to check? Nope, we don't want to fuck around with the answer we just got. And then continuously, hey, more girls are dying. Let's hope that doesn't keep happening. But I'm sure that they're all still the same girl, just from the last one. Do we call in the daughter for this one, or the doctor? Not the doctor, the dad for this girl, like from the last time, and just go down the line like, oh yeah, sure, that's my daughter, since I didn't get to see the last one. Just somehow give us some fucking closure. Yeah, the cops were bad. They were, but it also feels like that's cops in almost all horror movies. Is, oh, someone's murdering in your house right now? No, 10 years ago, one of you called from this number and told us some bullshit story. We came and checked it out. So we can't believe for a second that there's actually a murder in your house at this moment. Go to hell. And if you call again, we're arresting you. If I call again, can you come out here to get me to arrest me so that maybe you can also stop the murderer who's trying to kill me right now? Nope. That's not how we do things. You will have to come turn yourself in if you're not dead in the morning.
It was just setting the trend for all horror films to come. Cops in all horror films to come is just completely useless.
Yep. But I loved all the smoking. Just not enough of that. It was just everybody, like every time the doctor's talking about anything, he's got that dramatic cigarette. He's like Horatio Caning it with cancer the whole fucking time. It's just perfect. That is so utterly French to me. It's hard to rate this as a modern movie on a modern scale, but being forgiving and showing it for what were original ideas at the time and everything, I'm gonna go 3.
I mean, so I give it a 2.5. Now my gripes are based solely on kind of the story. Like if you look at it in terms of how it looked, the acting wasn't bad. I don't mind subtitles. It wasn't that. It was just the story was kind of dry to me. Now the story was very unique. Like you haven't really seen anything similar since. You see things that kind of grab from this, but you haven't seen like a direct rip-off of the entire story. So it's not the worst movie. It's definitely not the worst movie that we've watched. I'm just looking back.
Oh, that was my goal, was to bring the worst movie.
No, I'm trying to think. So
that's what Dave usually brings us.
Mike Diaz and Billy brought Pumpkinhead, which got really shitty numbers. Dave Nelson, Manos, The Hands of Fate was the first one. Where's the second one?
Did we actually watch Pumpkinhead?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I don't think you were on that one.
Oh, yeah, Corey, you weren't there. And Grave of the Vampire was the other one that Dave made us watch. But yeah, Corey, you were not there for Pumpkinhead.
Wow.
Where the fuck?
Was I in
oh,
Michigan?
you were. Yeah, you were in Michigan. Mike
Okay.
Diaz, Billy Hiller. Yep, back in March.
I feel bad that I missed that. That's one of my wife's favorite movies of all time.
You should tell her to find better movies.
No, that's never how it's going to work.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that one. Yeah. Corey, you want to read the outro?
Yeah, so how do we do things here? We rated the movie. You can contact us by leaving us a voicemail, 805-328-3966. You can email us at pot@gncast.com. You can leave us a message on the website as well. We would appreciate hearing from you. What is a classic movie that you think has been maybe copied so much that it feels like old-fashioned now in comparison? But what is your favorite oldest horror movie that you've seen? Now, some of you are going to say, oh yeah, that Saw movie is the oldest horror movie I've seen. And I'm going to fucking expunge in daylight like fucking Dracula because I'm older than dust. But still, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you think about this films and others. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Podcast of Terror. You can also subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or your favorite podcatcher. And you can leave us feedback there or at podchaser.com, which is the new website that I'm trying to help push to the forefront because I hate iTunes. All subscription options and links can be found at gncast.com/subscribe. And you can join our Facebook group for the network under Galactic Network.
Also, it's the season to purchase arbitrary gifts for each other. So we took the time to set up a Amazon link. So you can go shop at Amazon, spend money like you're already going to do. Costs you nothing. It'll give us a little something to offset the amount of money and time that Corey and I have put into this. Not that we don't like doing it, but I now have more mixers and microphone cables than I know what to do with.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't know what to do with them because every time we try to shut up the show, he's like, how the fuck do I do this again?
Yeah, every time we start recording, I have to remember how to do what knobs and dials and...
So we need to get Matt an intern.
Preferably blonde.
Yes, preferably male.
Male blonde intern. But yeah, go to amazon.podcastterror.com, shop like you normally would. Purchase as much pornography as you can get into your Amazon cart, and then we get a little kickback, and it continues to keep us free.
We are not proud. We will not deny. You buy a butt plug on Amazon, and they have them. We will take that kickback. We will absolutely.
You can also purchase the Great American Challenge, which is like a 18-inch long black dildo. I just like the name, but that is on Amazon. I
like how America takes credit for it too. It's a Great American Challenge. When you know that thing's full on Canadian.
No, it's really nice. It apologizes if it hurts you, and it even cooks you breakfast in the morning. Brad, thanks again for coming to hang out. Where can people find you and your brewery and your upcoming movies and nude photos?
Yeah, it was fun to be on this show again. Hope you guys can keep it going. Yeah, I'm here in Austin, Texas, and the brewery, it's a brew pub. We'll be slinging our own beers, about 5 or 6 taps of our own beers and pizzas. And we will hopefully be opening our doors in early January. And that is on the east side of Austin.
Describe your pizzas.
And we're actually doing kind of I don't know if you've heard of these, they're a New Jersey bar style pizza. They're very thin. Look this up because they're delicious. Very thin crust. Cheese goes all the way out to the edge. You cook them in a pan, but the cheese gets nice and crispy on the edges. They're personal pies. We're not doing anything like, giant pizzas. These are going to be. It's going to be food that will fill your belly so that you can drink our beers. And that's the goal. We're trying to keep it affordable. We're not trying to, do anything too fancy. We want people to be able to come in with $20, be able to get a little food and a couple beers in their belly. And that's kind of a hard thing to find these days.
If you stagger out the door and throw up, we want it to taste good coming out.
Yes, exactly.
I'm rock hard for New Jersey style pizza.
You see it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm frantically trying to find the address to our office down there so I can figure out how far away your place is from where I would be. I think I know these things.
Yeah. As far as my short film goes, I won't have that publicly available for a while until I've sort of ran it through the festival circuit. So unfortunately, I got to keep that one on lockdown. But I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah, please do. We can talk as much or as little about it as you want. Like, if you want us to do a quick thing on it, we will gladly do that.
Cool.
Or we could tell absolutely no one about it and just watch it with the blinds closed, no pants on.
Cool.
Which is what he's already doing with your pizza.
I didn't figure Matt had his pants on right now.
That's why I sit and I have this big desk so you can't see what's going on underneath.
You can't see what's going on down there.
Like it needs to be a big desk.
Well, fuck you.
Great American Challenge down there.
Haven't seen it once in a while. Just kind of. It appears to be about 10 miles away. And you're not anywhere near downtown, are you? Because the last thing you're not terribly far.
Austin's small, so it's it's a small city. I think. I don't know, but I also grew up in Houston, which is, goes on forever. Yeah. So from downtown to our place, it would be a 10-minute, $10, $5 Uber ride, $5 to $10 Uber ride. So it's not bad.
I've heard
that's how far Matt has to drive just to find a place with working plumbing right now.
Yeah. There's nothing like our nearest neighbor is now a quarter mile away. It's kind of nice.
Damn.
Yeah. Gun season for deer started yesterday, and I have never heard so many gunshots or
Oh my
cars
God.
driving past. Yeah, because
Where do you live?
It's the town of Bovina.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah,
Look up bovine, like bovine cows.
yeah, with an A. Bovina. Our
It's
mailing.
the fancy cows.
Yep, our mailing address is Shiocton. I'm about 12, 15 miles from Appleton. So I mean, we moved about 20 minutes from our old house, but we just like went up towards like when you drive into the town of Shiocton, there's like 900 people, and the sign just says like the road to the North Woods. So it's where
Damn.
shit starts to get real. Like I now have to make sure I don't schmuck deer while I drive home.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Like I said, I'll try and get down there for work and definitely.
Your town sounds like a Yakov Smirnoff joke. In Bovina, the cows milk you.
Jesus. Corey, where can people find you and your terrible dad jokes?
I don't make the jokes, but I help publish them. If you go to don'taskcomics.com, I help publish the comics of Levi Krauss and friends, and some of them I wrote.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Untapped at Matt the Lifeguard. Next week, we're going to be talking about 1987 Blood Rage with PJ Starks. We're finally getting him back on after technical snafus about a month ago. And
1987's Blood Rage is the story about when I discovered that I was a woman.
it was my first period. Anyways, Brett, thanks again for coming to hang out. That's going to do it for another episode of the podcast era, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Stay scary, everybody.